You are now tuned in to our Day's Athletics Audiobytes.
What's going on, everybody? It's another episode of our Day's Athletics Audio Bites. I am Day. Of course, we're going to get right into it. We're going to get into the NBA playoffs first. I know everybody's probably wondering about the NFL draft. We predicted some predicts here. Might have been at the wrong, pick, but we did predict some picks at the right spot. But we're going to talk about that later. Um, I know I said I only do one takes usually, but this is actually the second take again this week because I had the perfect setup and I bought new equipment. I got a Mac and everything, and then it just turns out that the recording dropped off sounds way too many times. I was still gonna put it up, but it is you will miss out on some key points. So, anyways, NBA playoffs. We're gonna get brief into it. I went more in depth on it, but I'll probably make an article maybe, um, or I'll just do another episode and talk more in depth about it next time. But after what just happened, I have a very thin patience. But I'm still gonna give you what you need to know, or what you should know. What we should know is that the Boston Celtics have a very good chance of beating the Milwaukee Bucks. That's not a shocker. It shouldn't be a shocker. Um, Milwaukee, they've been outcoached by Brad Stevens. Brad Stevens is a future Hall of Fame coach. I know that is a reach, especially because they have not won a championship with Brad Stevens. Um, I think he's won. I've watched him since he was with Butler, and I always admired. He's always been admired by everyone as a very intelligent coach, and I think that's what puts him above the rest. Is you know teams can't do that, but the Boston Celtics are really putting it on them, and stretching the floor out, and it really hurts that Milwaukee doesn't have Brogdon. But even if they did have Brogdon, would you still think that they'd win? Because Al Horford had a better game than Giannis Antetokounmpo did, and he was putting the locks on them. And if they can keep that going, then I don't. The Boston Celtics, I don't think they're sweeping Milwaukee. If they sweep Milwaukee, oh boy. They say playoffs don't count towards MVP votes, but I think somehow magically it does, even though still. Um, but he's not yet MVP if that happens. Um, like if you go out sad like that, then that's that just be sad. With Philadelphia and Toronto, I predict Toronto. I think to win that series, even though Philadelphia tied it up after Kyle Lowry tried to nutmeg Tobias Harris last night, and I don't this past night, and I don't know why he would try something like that under the last final minutes, last final seconds, whatever you want to call it. And he really tried it, and he failed miserably. He really tried to act like he was, one of those street hoopers. He really tried it, um, and it failed miserably. And I think we've reached a point now to where, even though he didn't have a great game, they should really put in Van Fleet in the final, minutes, even though Van Fleet was non-existent in that game. Um, Kawhi, he showed out as usual, but 76ers didn't do great in that game either. And B didn't do that well. A bunch of players didn't do so hot. So I think they need to step it up. Both teams are gonna have to step it up. Um, but I still take Toronto. I think it's tied right now, and I think it very well could go to 7. But I'm gonna take Toronto in 7. I'm gonna take the Celtics in. I could see 6, but I'd say 7 because I think Giannis is gonna just go into the complete beast mode. He's going to have to, especially if they get Brogdon back. Who I don't. He's a great player, but I don't think he's a player who makes them gives them like another win per se. but I'd still take the Celtics over the Milwaukee Bucks. I see that upset coming, even though it's not really an upset, I'd say. Um, with the Rockets and Warriors, I thought the Rockets would have the advantage because they had more time to rest, but they're still, at Golden State, and Golden State has Kevin Durant, and Kevin Durant has been balling. And if James Harden was busy, making shots instead of complaining, I think they'd still win this game. Honestly, Clint Capella was also a non-existent factor. PJ Tucker didn't do anything. Eric Gordon showed out, but still, it was like they need more all around consistency, and Harden he should not turn into that person, even though it's kind of hard not to because he always chokes in the playoffs. That's why Chris Paul needs to stay healthy because if we always mention that Chris Paul were to stay healthy these past couple of times, that they'd be able to beat Golden State, and they could have beaten Golden State last year. But if Chris Paul can stay healthy and he balls out, I think they have a good shot. That's what I'm gonna take going. Yeah, I'll take Houston in game 7 over Golden State, even though probably Golden State's probably gonna end up. I don't want to be that person that's just trying to be a rebel, but I really think that Houston has a good chance of beating the Warriors, even though they lost this past game. But it was a close game, and Harden just needs to stop being that guy that just complains about everything, especially in the playoffs. Like, come on, man, you're bigger than that. Then with Denver, I like Denver a lot. They're a young team, and then when you play in that high altitude, it can be a big weapon for them or not if you're used to it. But they have some weapons and not just the altitude or whatever. They have players, they have the shooting and everything, and that got to Portland. And Portland needs to step up next time. It hurts that they don't have Nurkic. We would love to see a Nurkic versus Jokic matchup, especially because they're former teammates and stuff. And we also had a discussion of who was better, Nurkic or Jokic, Nurkic or Jokic. So we'd love to see that. I really wish Nurkic was healthy, because this would be a great series. My could have ended up being one of the best series out the entire playoffs, but didn't happen. I see Denver winning a close one too, like game 6, game 7. I see all these games going like to a game 6 or game 7, really. Because I think Portland's gonna have to kick it up. CJ McCollum didn't do so hot. He needs to pick it up. Damian Lillard didn't do so bad, but he could. They need that backcourt. It's really about the backcourt to produce, and it's hard when they don't have Nurkic, but they're gonna have to show out. But anyways, moving on to the NFL, we're gonna go through every round of the NFL draft, and I'm gonna tell you right now, the 6th and 7th round was better than the 5th round to me. And you know what's crazy? A lot of people like, so that's crazy that all better. They got picked earlier for a reason because the process is gonna be better. But I just think the way how these teams horribly drafted. I mean, a lot of them did pretty well. Cardinals, Redskins, Ravens. Those are some of those teams that did very well. You have teams like the Giants and the Jets who started off great, or had some good picks and just ended off not so good. Like for example, Quentin Williams was a great player, and he could be the best player in the draft. He was according to some, but still, it was just they should have got a pass rusher. They should have definitely got a pass rusher, especially with Josh Allen being from New Jersey and everything. They should have gotten a pass rusher. Clelin Ferrell was way too high. We predicted him here. If you look at the articles at dateathletics.wordpress.com, he's predicted to go at their later pick in later rounds. Um, Clelin Ferrell's the Raiders, but he went at 4, and I really don't think he would have gone that high by other teams. I think Mike Mayock and John Gruden just wanted to make a statement. They just wanted to be like, oh, yeah, people might shame us because we're the TV guys, but we actually know our stuff. I think that was kind of the pick they needed. Um, but it was just kind of high, though. But I like how Steelers made a statement by reaching up for Devin Bush. Well, not reach, trading up. Let me not say reach, because I didn't think he was going to be valued that high. He's worth a top 10 pick, no doubt. He's not a Devin White, but he's definitely worth a top 10 pick, and it was a great pick for them, especially with they don't have a really great inside linebacker presence, and you pair them up with Bud Dupree and T.J. Watt. Ooh, that's gonna be, man, they gonna be scary. Um, but overall, it was some good picks. Denver choosing Noah Fant, then going Drew Lock in the second round. Might as well get into the second round right now. With the second round, we had the Jets for our local teams. The Jets did not have any picks. Unfortunately, would have been some great picks, some great corners, which they decided to wait, and we'll get into that. But it was some really solid picks. Andy Isabella, who was predicted by many to go in the first round. That's how talented he is. Out of Massachusetts, he goes to Arizona at 30, and in the second round. And I like a lot of these picks, like Sean Bunting out of Central Michigan, one of the best corners in this class. He went there. It was a great pick. Trayvon Mullen for the Rays was a great pick. There's a lot of great picks. Even though the Indianapolis Colts really reached for Ben Benogu at 17 because they didn't even need him that at that spot. Excuse me. And then Irv Smith for the Vikings was a great pick. I don't know how he fell all the way there, but it was a great pick. And then Miles Sanders, I think has a chance to be Rookie of the Year. There's a couple of people who have Rookie of the Year list. Josh Jacobs, I think, is a candidate for Rookie of the Year. Miles Sanders definitely is. It's a lot of not a lot of quarterbacks. I'm not saying Kyle Murray's not going to run it up, but you have to remember that he doesn't have a really good old line. Even though their receiving core is disgusting now, especially with drafting Isabella and Hakeem Butler. And I think Hakeem Butler and Isabella are going to be day one starters. And Caleb Wilson, Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick in the seventh round for the Cardinals. I think he's going to be a very good. I don't know if they're going to use him immediately. Maybe they'll wait a year to use more tight ends because they never really been a big tight end team, anyways. But I think they have to use Caleb Wilson. I think he's going to be a great weapon. He would have been a great weapon for Josh Rosen, but they traded Josh Rosen because Josh Rosen and Caleb Wilson were teammates at UCLA. And Caleb Wilson was, he had a huge year in 2017 with Josh Rosen, but they still had, anyways. I think it was a solid trade for Miami to get that in ended up being Andy Isabella for them. I think that's a solid pick. Who I think is going to be one of the great slot receivers, or he'll beat you from the outside, inside, doesn't really matter. But there's great picks all around, really. Third round, another pretty great picks. Jets got Ja'Kai Polite. 49ers got Jalen Hurd. It'll be interesting how to see how they use him. Rams got Gerald Henderson, who's my favorite running back out this draft class. I don't think he might not be the best, but no, I'll say he's the best because he's just so explosive and so dangerous. And it sucks to see him get drafted by the Rams because they have Todd Gurley. I know they'll use both, but it just sucks because I wish he would have went to a team such as I don't know, like let's see, like a Packers. They have their running backs, but I'm not too fond of them. Or they could have went to like a Dolphins or like just other teams, the Lions or Ravens, or just someone else that just needed more of a running back because they need a running back, but I just really want to see Darrell Henderson be a starter, and I think he will be one day. But I just wish I love seeing his film. I just love seeing his tape, and that was a great pick for him. Chase Winovich was a horrible pick for the Patriots. They had so many more options, like for example, O'Shane Mines from Old Dominion getting picked at 32 for the Giants in that same round, way later. Um, so that should have been a pick for them. Um, but yeah, a bunch of little decent picks. Chuma Odoga was a great pick. He was the best tackle available for the Jets, and they need a tackle desperately. So that was a great pick for them. I think Trey Pipkins was a great pick for Los Angeles Chargers, and the Jets arguably could have maybe picked Pipkins too. He's a huge athletic tackle. Well, yeah, he's from a D2 school, but he's going to be great. So I'm a big fan of him. So I liked that pick. Moving on to the fourth round. That round wasn't so bad as bad. Nearly wasn't as bad as the fifth round. Yeah, Hakeem Butler going the first in the fourth round to the Cardinals, which was a great pick. Max Crosby, I think, was a reach. He's a talented player, but I think he was a reach at number 4. Julian Love falling to the Giants at that. They not like the Giants made like a smart move by picking him. He just fell in their lap, and it'd be stupid to pass on him. Even if they picked a corner in the first round already, they need more DBs, and that really helped solidify. Julian Love should have been a Jets pick, New York Jets pick, but they choose Trevon Wisco. Even though they chose later. My point is that they should have chose a corner. There's still a very good amount of like Iman Marshall was picked after Trevon Wisco. Much would have rather a wide receiver or like a Emmanuel Hall who should have been drafted. There's no way he shouldn't have been drafted. That's ridiculous. These scouts, these GMs need to really be analyzed. I need to be a GM. I need to be a scout or something because this is ridiculous. And even if the Jets were to pick a tight end, I would have went with Foster Moreau out of LSU. Way better. He's way more athletic. I think he has a way higher ceiling. He just looks so much better than Trevon Wisco. But still some solid picks. Iman Marshall for the Ravens are very, very good pick. I like that pick a lot. Um, a bunch. Bryce Love. That Redskins offense is gonna be disgusting, and the Giants have to put up with it with Daniel. Oh man, Giants messed up so poorly. Fifth round I really did not like. I like the Cardinals pick. The Cardinals had a really good draft. And if you read my article that just came out yesterday on theathletics.wordpress.com, the draft winners, you check out if your team won the NFL draft in their division. I had the Cardinals win the division NFL draft wise because they just had so many great picks in the fifth round. They chose Deontay Thompson, who was not a reach at all because some people had a first round grade on him, but he just was so inconsistent. Like he doesn't deserve to be a first rounder. But he was a great value pick at that spot, and I think if he can just get rid of that inconsistency, he can be a really good safety. And then there was Hunter Renfro, who had the crazy catch a couple years ago for Clemson. I don't think he's a bad guy. I think he'll be a decent, little slot. He should be a contributor somewhat. Jets had a horrible pick with Blake Cashman. You needed a corner still or another pass rusher. It was just a horrible. I don't know why they sticking to Darren Lee so bad. Like they got all these undrafted free agents who are linebackers. They got C.J. Mosley's brother and everything, which is cool and everything. You kind of would expect that if they just signed C.J. Mosley to a big contract. But still, it was just like they really. It feels like they want to not use Darren Lee. I don't know why. He's a freak athlete, and I feel like maybe they just haven't used him right. And you just don't want him to go to another team and ball out, and you guys look dumb. Especially when you guys wasted such a high pick on him in the first place. Just didn't make that much sense. But I like the sixth and seventh rounds a lot better than the fifth round. I think the sixth and seventh round prospects are going to be better than the fifth round prospects. I'll start off with Sutton Smith, edge player who's going to have to play inside most likely because he's way too small to play outside. And the Pittsburgh Steelers might use him on the outside as a backup pass rusher. Who knows? I like Caden Smith out of Stanford for the 49ers. He's a local guy, college wise. And then I like there's a good amount of people. Like for example, I'd say Blessing Austin for the Jets. They came back, made a decent pick and chose a very talented cornerback, but it's a big risk because he has a lot of injuries. He had two major knee injuries, so it's big. But if he can recover back from them pretty well, he's a very talented corner. And Kelvin Harmon falling to the Redskins all the way late in that round, in the sixth round. That was a blessing for them. The Redskins had a really good draft as well, and they see with the thing with the Cardinals and the Redskins. It seems like they did the clear, simple, obvious thing. They just did what was best. I think the Jets tried to be cute. They didn't want to do the obvious thing. Let's get a pass rusher up front. Like you could have had Josh Allen and Jakai Polite. Now your defense is 10 times better than having a Quentin Williams and a Jakai Polite. Because I feel like you always go through defensive linemen. Our defensive line wasn't that bad already, but our pass rushes was horrible. We had none, so we really needed that. I wish we would have had more, drafted more, got some corners. Darwin Thompson for the Kansas City Chiefs is another great pick. That's why I love this round and the seventh round way better than the fifth round because I think it was just so much better. I think he's gonna end up being a starter for the Chiefs. And I think if you're a guy who plays fantasy, watch out for Darwin Thompson out of Utah State. Should have been drafted higher. He's a freak athlete. He's a great running back, and you'll see how good. Who I think could be another pick for honestly rookie of the year. Honestly, if they start him, but I can see the Chiefs going with committee. Unfortunately, but I really hope they don't. Going into the seventh round, the Vikings stole the Jets pick and got Chris Boyd, another guy who the Jets should have got, but they didn't. So they got a great pick with that. Bills got Daryl Johnson, but Bills had a great draft. They're the best draft out of all the New York teams, if we count Buffalo as a New York team, because I mean they are a New York team. They're not a New York City team, but they're a New York team, the only team that plays in New York. So, anyways, that was a great pick. I like that. I like Quentin Bell for the Oakland Raiders. Mike Mayock and John Gruden had a really good draft. They had a very, very good draft. Um, Cleveland Federal was, a reach, but they had a very, 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 very good draft, I feel like. And just all around, I'm just going, remember, I'm going on a limb here. The 6th and 7th round players are going to be better than the 5th rounders. And I haven't had a chance to be better than the early rounders, too. Um, it was just, Dakota Allen going to the Rams, Jordan Brailford, my mistake, out of Oklahoma State going to the Redskins. Another great pick for the Redskins. They get another pass rusher, Caleb Wilson, who we talked about earlier. Mr. Relevant, going to be one of the greatest Mr. Relevant as long as Arizona actually uses tight ends from now on and can use them properly. But we're going to end out with that. There's some great picks. It'll be interesting to see how they play off. We'll be seeing how the playoffs, playoff two. um, yeah, it's an interesting offseason for the NFL and for the NBA after these playoffs. But anyways, have a good week, y'all. Peace out. Until next time.